All right, that's fine. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and perfect do this. All right, so thanks for joining for today's backend devs meeting, and we have today joining with us a new person. Her name is Amber. She's also kind of new to backend development, so we want to give her a warm welcome. Um, and so we're probably going to get her caught up in a little bit with how we with our Jira board, with our internal GitHub repo and whatnot. But just because we haven't been on this specific project for a little bit, we've been kind of focusing on some um, algorithms and leak code. It might take us a little bit of time just to kind of get back in the swing of things and get warmed up again. Um, Currently, we have this ticket open. It says to create function to generate a new eBay API token. And so I don't completely remember if we actually coded this, but let's take a look at our current code. And based off of our current code, we can go ahead and determine if we can leave this open or if we move this over to done. And this is also another thing that I think is pretty good to really catch up on is the reason why we generally don't leave it unassigned is because when we have a ticket open, essentially the person who the ticket is assigned to is held accountable for this task. So in a professional company, usually for our company, it's every day. I've heard of some companies doing it every week, twice every week, maybe three times every week. Hell, I've even heard ones that are like once every month, which I think is kind of sketchy. But there are regular intervals for most companies for where everyone gets on the board and talks about their status so far and how they're doing. And so the assignee of the ticket is supposed to be held accountable, and they're supposed to say, "Hey, currently this is our status of our ticket. This is how we're doing so far," and then that way we know how they're doing, and they're not just wasting time. Or sometimes it's not maliciously wasting time, but say for example if you meet a problem and you don't know how to solve it, it might be more prudent and time efficient if we assign say a senior developer to assist you with that one piece of code that you're stuck with, rather than having you stuck on that piece of code trying to figure it out and struggling for like a week 2 weeks, when really all you needed was a little push from someone who probably knew how to do it for like an hour. So it really also helps us boost efficiency, and it helps people learn when they really need help. So I'm going to assign this ticket to me just because we don't know where we're at, and if we haven't developed this today, then we can go ahead and continue working on this ticket. And so just a little breakdown, just to get a refresher, we can take a look at the description. If we remember correctly, let me open up the hopscotch here, which is very similar uh, to what's the other one called?
Postman.
Postman. That's right. Having just a eBay. Remember how we had a basic authentication where we had a username and a password, a client ID and a client secret or client password, right? And so
Yeah.
we can't natively use the username and password to go ahead and send a request to um, eBay and get all the items. We have to go to eBay, one of eBay's uh, links essentially, and exchange that username and password for a token that can be used for a set period of time. So for in our case, it was 7,200 seconds. Let me see if my token still works. Oh, I think I refreshed my token, but let me open that up real quick. eBay developer. Oh, and one more thing while we're on this, Amber, just so you can even use this program today, um, and if you watch my previous videos, you're also going to know this, but you have to sign up for this account called on eBay developers, because then it gives us access to APIs on eBay's backend.
Okay.
Um, just a little heads up, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and log in.
So Jason, I was just going through the code, and I think we last time when we were working in this, we tried to work on a function or a method that generates access, like a token session,
Mm-hmm.
and then we specified some constants.
Okay, got it,
I don't
got
know
it.
if I don't know if you remember that. Yeah.
Yes, I remember creating constants, but do we create a actual method that uh, that hits the API and turns this into the other one? I don't believe so. So that's why what we're going to do is we're going to move this from to do to in progress. So that's what we're going to do today.
Okay.
Um, let's take a look at what we got. So we have our controller class, which remember is where all the APIs are stored. And let's go ahead and take a look at our service class. So service class, we have generate sessions, we have get store percentage and rates, store list. Okay, and let's take a look at one other thing here. Do we have a helper class?
Um,
Advice, config, control, exception. Okay, no, we don't. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. So, one thing actually I think I should have specified a little bit is that there's also another thing called helper classes. And so this is the difference between a helper class and a service class. The service class directly has methods that are used for controllers. So if you guys remember from last time, the controllers hold the APIs. So it will tell you that hey, if you hit this API, get store list or the get mapping for store percentage, then it's going to do a very preliminary check to make sure that all the parameters are there, and assuming the parameters are there, then it's going to hit what the service class, which actually does all the logic behind it, right? But all the logic behind it, for example, get store list should be here, get store percentage should also be here. Why? Because those are direct logic for this, right? So get store list, what does it have to do? It has to get the store list. So there has to be a method called get store list here. Similar to like a get store percentage, the logic is it has to get store percentage in here. So we have to implement in here. But say there's additional logic that the service class has to do, right? Such as it has to generate a session, right? Well, the session generating a session is not directly having to do with controller classes, right? Like, yes, in order to go ahead and get all the store rates, in order to get the store percentages and get the store list, we have to first generate a session. But the session itself does not have a direct relation to the controller class. Does that kind of make sense, right? So this technically this method over here shouldn't be here. So then you might be wondering, okay, if this shouldn't be here, then where should it be, right? So there are actually two different other types of um, subclasses that should be created. One is called a sorry, I'm blanking out a little bit. A client class, and the other one is called a helper class. So a client class basically hits other APIs. So let me draw a quick diagram here, and I think that might be able to help you guys out a little bit. All right, and you guys can see my screen so far, right? For this whiteboard.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's just say you have right here, we're using a monolith service, which technically isn't good. But when you go to a big company, for example, you go to google.com, right? Google has a lot of different functions other than searching. They have one function for logging in, so that's the authentication service. They might have another function for logging because if there's an error, then they want to catch it. So they may have like an audit service. Maybe they have a service that sends out warning emails or notification emails and promotional emails, and that has an email service. Obviously, they have their search service, which provides, which if people are searching for stuff, then the search service searches for stuff, right? So maybe, for example, if you are working on the Gmail team, they have their auth service SVC, and maybe they have their email service, and maybe you know how like on the top of your Gmail sometimes they have like a little advertisement, right? So maybe they have an ad service, right? So when you log in, the email service is first going to then ask the auth service, hey, is this person logged in? Is it valid? The auth service will then hit back, yes, it is valid. This is the user and this is their details. The email service will then hit the ad service and say, hey, what ads should we give to this user? And the ad service might ask the authentication service, hey, who is this user? Give me details. And the authentication service might also shoot back to the ad service, okay, this is information about the user, right? And then the ad service might then shoot back to the email service, okay, here are the ads that we want to show to the user, right? So we can kind of see like in this kind of a diagram, we have three different programs that all talk to each other, right? And we never, as someone who's on the outside, who's only using the email, we never ever see them talk to each other. But as a backend engineer, our job is to actually make it so that even though our end user doesn't see this happening going on, we can allow each of these services to talk to each other using private APIs. And so private APIs are very similar to public APIs, where public APIs, anyone else can hit it and anyone else can see it. Private APIs are basically APIs that only our internal other services are supposed to use to talk to each other. So then there's maybe less authentication going on, and you can get very private and sensitive data, but it's only used for internal use, so that so these services can talk to each other much more quickly, much more efficiently, while the other people on the outside can't see it. Does that kind of make sense so far?
Yeah.
Perfect. And so these private APIs, when they talk to each other, we use something called a client class. Client. So if you're say for example, if you're working on an email service, right, and you have like let's say two or three different endpoints that you use to talk to the auth service on, then you might have an auth service client, right? And you might also have an ad service client. And let's just say if you're working on the auth service, you might have an email service client and an ad service client. So these are private APIs, and so the generate session might actually go under a client class. Okay. Now, on the other hand, there might be some other stuff that you need some help on. Say, for example, the card cache DTO, if it wasn't just these three items, say there were 5 or 6, maybe 10, 20 different items, and some of these items need to be converted into another type of object or something like that. It's very, very complex, for example, right? Then if we leave all this logic under here, then it becomes very, very messy. Because the card cache service is supposed to be only for logic related directly to card cache, right? If we have a
Hmm.
whole bunch of other stuff, let's just say we're trying to do math here, we're trying to do like some conversions here, then it's like, okay, yes, it sort of has to do with card cache, but there's also a lot of logic that isn't directly having to do with the controller. So what do? We have something called a helper class. So we generate a new class called the card cache helper. And so instead of calling generate session directly, we can do card cache helper dot whatever and have it do all the hard work. So that way, if we have something, if card cache, for example, has 10, 20, 30 different endpoints. And each of those endpoints have like 10, 20, 30 different kinds of methods that we're calling. We don't have 900 methods in this service class. We have 30 base methods that all, maybe a little bit more, 30, maybe 35 methods that have to do with the controller class. But all the really, really nitty gritty, like even more detailed logic goes into our helper class. So that's how we kind of break down stuff. And hopefully that also sort of makes sense. Yes? No?
So can we say the helper classes are a form of client classes, the ones, the
No,
private APIs kind of thing?
it's similar. So client classes are only for talking to other services or other endpoints. Okay?
Okay.
Helper services are kind of like really, really generalized. You can use them for anything, but they're more for even more specific logic that's way too specific to be in the service class.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. And I think as we start coding more and more stuff, I will, for now, we're going to put this inside a client class. But later on, I can't think of anything yet, but later on, when something does appear, then we're going to go ahead and put it in a helper class. And one more thing that I've noticed here that I kind of want to bring up today is you might be wondering, okay, here is a string, right? I directly define the string here. Over here is also another string, but I put it inside constants. So why did I leave this string here, and why didn't I put it inside a constants class, right? And so, technically speaking, you can put this inside a constants class, and it would be correct. And it'd be right. But the general rule of thumb that I've heard my supervisor say, and this is different in each company, but for my company, the general rule of thumb is this: whenever a string is used in more than one place, so if I ever use this string again, I should put it all in a constants class. And so you might be wondering, okay, why do we even have a constants class? This seems like a lot more extra code for something that I could have just put one line here in, right? And so the reason why we do that is because, say, for example, one day a card cache changes their name. They change it from card cache to cardstore.com, right? Then I have to go ahead and find every single instance where it says cardcache.com and change it into cardstore.com. Whereas if I put it all in constants, all I have to do is change this one line over here. That's it, right? Because every single place references this one static reference in the constants class. Does that also kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So what I'm going to do here, really simple, is create a package called the clients new Java class card cache client. Yeah, I think that should be fine. And then public card cache client, perfect. And over here, we do at component. Okay, now I want to teach you guys about component here. Okay, so Gene, do you remember what AutoWire does?
Yeah, I know what it does.
Okay, you wanna give us an explanation?
Um, okay. So in that case, cache card service class is a bean. So it has specific methods, or it is used by another class as its dependency.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you import card cache service into another class, let's say you import the class an instant of that of cache card service, then you indicate auto wired on that instance. Then that tells Spring that the instance that you just imported into this class is a dependency that comes from another class. So auto wired is like a way of telling Spring that this instance is a dependency.
Perfect. Yes, and basically also auto instantiates it. So Amber, just for your kind of like general rule of, because what he said was very, very, I feel like it's probably going to give you brain worms if you don't understand it, right? um, what it does is, notice how for Java, if you review through the video, you have to instantiate it. So card cache, I have to do equals new card cache service, something like that, right? But you notice in my program, I never ever instantiated this variable. Do you know what variable instantiation is? By the way, Amber, it's okay if you don't. If you watch the video, you'll understand it. But essentially, what AutoWire does is it automatically instantiates this class for you, and basically Spring will take over and deal with all the complex behind the scenes kind of thing. But there are a few ways to turn it into an AutoWire. For example, I can't AutoWire a constant, okay? And because constants is not a service or it's not a controller, it's not a repository either, right? So um, you can't just AutoWire any class. So in this case, Card Cache Client, I still want to be able to AutoWire it, but it's not a controller, and it's also not a service class. So what do I do? I'm kind of lost here, right? Same thing with helper classes. It's not a client. It's not really a service either. So how do I make sure that I can auto wire it, right? Well, the answer is you use something called component. If you put a at component, it also tells Spring, hey, you can go ahead and auto wire this class by anyone else, and this should work. So that's the idea behind it. It's when there's a class that you want to auto wire, but it's not a service class, it's not a repository class. Repository classes are another class that we'll get into later on, and it's not a controller class either. So that's the idea behind it. So I will go ahead and copy and paste this bad boy over. Oh, okay.
Can we say that component classes are like beans, are Spring beans?
Yes, they all are.
Okay.
Yeah. And over here, what I'm going to do is, because I don't think we're using the Rust template here. Oh, we are. Okay, that's fine. So I will go ahead and copy this. And last but not least, I think I have this called somewhere else here. So I'm going to, because I called this component like before, I'm going to add this in as auto wired private card cache client. And then for wherever it said generate sessions, I'm just going to do card cache client dot generate session. Perfect. Okay, looks good. I don't think I have. Oh, I have one related issue. I Oh, okay. So for something like this, I would do public. What does it want? Card cache session DTO. Card cache session DTO. Generate session. Return card cache client. Oh, sorry, lowercase. Card cache client dot generate session. Fantastic. And the same thing here. There's a Rust template, and this, since it hits a endpoint, what you should be doing is also moving this over to the client session. So give me 1 minute here. I can just do this. Let me make sure that this is correct. Okay. Okay. This one looks good. And we should not be using REST client at all because that goes in our client class. Okay, so now we've kind of clarified it. Hopefully that sort of made sense. Did everything I did, because I know I had to copy and paste it a lot, but did me moving those classes over make sense to you guys? Is that clear, or do you want clarification on what I just did?
Yeah, I think I'd like some clarification.
Sure. So previously, I had this object called REST template, and if you guys remember, what REST template does is it hits external APIs, right?
Yeah.
You guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so what we just said was, hey, when we're hitting APIs, we external APIs, we don't want to put it just in the service class because we have something called a client that does it for us, right? So I'm going to delete the REST template, and any method that uses the REST template and or any part that uses the REST template and does all the logic behind hitting another endpoint, we will put inside our inside our client, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we had two methods that went ahead and hit that hit an external endpoint. One of the methods was the generate session, and it hits the external endpoint for what? For card cache's session generator, right? And
Yeah.
the other method that we had was to get all the store rates, right? So these two were methods that we should now move into our client class, right? And so what I
Okay.
did was I basically cut both of these methods out and put it inside my client class, right? And now when the service class gets a request to get all the store rates, all we have to do is directly go to our card clash client, and we can return it from there.
Can I share my screen just for 1 second?
Sure. Let
Yeah.
me switch back to you. I'm gonna stop screen sharing. Okay, go for it.
So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So we had this method for the eBay. So I think this should also go to Card Cache client as
Ah,
well.
yes, that is almost. Now take a look at the name. It's called Card Cache Client, right? But
Yeah.
this is eBay. So what do we have to do? We have to create a new client. We have to create a new class called eBay
Oh,
Clients.java.
eBay client. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. But yes, you're on the right track. We should do that next. Did you code this yourself, or was this already in there? I don't remember.
Yeah. So this is what we did last time. That's why I was
Oh, we
telling you,
did.
like, yeah, we did this.
See,
I think,
I don't remember.
yeah, we didn't push this. So maybe if I try to push this to the using the like a branch, you create a branch, then try to push this,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
and
Let's.
then
Why don't you go ahead and push it real quick and um, hmm.
then I think you have to walk me through a GitHub client so that I
GitHub client.
GitHub desktop. Sorry, GitHub desktop.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Sure. Uh-oh.
Let me see. Let me try to
Click
locate.
remove, I think. Right? Or
Remove.
is that where you had your thing last time?
Hmm,
Can
should
you
be
move
maybe like
your the select folder real quick a little bit? Because I want to see where it thinks the original file is. User. Okay, it is in desktop Java. So see if
yeah. I know where it is. Yeah, like yeah.
Underdog.
There we go.
Okay, okay. Got it. And
So
could you just click through each of the items real quick before you push? Because I want to make sure that it's looking about right. Okay, perfect. Oh,
this
and
is what
quick
we're
thing:
working. Mhm.
before you push, you should always make sure you have the latest changes. So, um, let me go look it up because on Mac is a lot easier on this one. Right. Go under
Mhm.
the branch tab at the very top.
Here.
No, branch at the very top.
No, branch.
Or
Okay, branch.
file.
Okay.
No. File, edit, view, repository, and then one of them is
Okay.
branch.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. And then click on merge into current branch and select main. So, okay, and perfect. It says this branch is up to date. So, what does that do? Let me go ahead and share my screen and I'll tell you exactly why you want to do that.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready. Okay. So, okay. So, whiteboard online. All right. So, let's just say, for example, that we were a company and we're all working on the repo for, let's say we're working on the authentication repo. Gene, your job is to go ahead and implement this new login authentication. My job is to fix this a bug that is currently existing inside our repo, right? So we are both working on the authentication service, but we both have different jobs, right?
Yeah.
So this is the main branch, right? Main branch, right? And so what you're gonna do is this is your branch now. This is feature slash new login feature, right? And I might start maybe a little later, but this is my branch. This is the feature slash bug fix feature, right? And so later on, for example, you finish early because you're just that good at coding. You got it done. So you've merged it in, right? So now this
Mm-hmm.
branch has your changes, right? But then when I try to merge my changes in, what if one of the files that you changed happens to conflict with the changes that I have, right? Then
Yeah.
GitHub is going to be really confused, okay? Well, both of them started at the main branch. Okay, that looks good, but a change was made here and you have another change that's different than his. Whose changes do I take? Uh-oh, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when you merge another branch in is you're saying, okay, when when I'm ready to merge my branch in, right, when I'm ready to do it, first bring all the changes that you've had so far and bring it into my branch. So merge the changes in main into your branch. And then once we make sure that yes, there are no conflicts, and if there are conflicts, we fix them, then we can merge them back into main and it will be safe.
Got it.
Yes. So that's why. And so on your end, it says no changes. It means that no one pushed anything to main yet. There's
Yeah.
nothing that you have to worry about. So you're all good. You can go ahead and push if your changes look right. So why don't you go ahead and push for me? I will take a look and hopefully there's no major bugs or anything. If there are, we can just revert it. We can bring it back one. It's not a huge deal, but yeah.
So I go to the branch section, and then
You want to share your screen?
yeah, because I don't know much about
GitHub?
GitHub desktop. Yeah. So
Later on, I'll post a video, but you guys should learn it. Git, I promise you, is not that hard to learn. You guys can probably learn it in about an hour. And a lot of old people like to use command line to do it. And command
mhm.
line, there are some very, very specialized commands like cherry pick, squash, um, rebase. Those are all specialized commands that you use when something's messed up, right?
Mhm.
Um, but assuming that nothing has messed up and there's no special operations, um, using the GitHub desktop will make your life that much easier. And learning all the basic functions you could do in 30 minutes. All the special functions, probably another 30 minutes, and you guys will be able to get down, no problem.
Okay.
But yeah, could you click through from the very first file, cardcat clash client.java, real quick for me? Okay, cardcat.
So I was trying. So I made this like as you I was following what you're doing. So
Okay. So this will actually cause a conflict because
Mhm.
I also made changes and I created a card clash client, right?
Yeah.
And you did, and now if you push yours and I merge your changes into mine, Git is going to freak out and they're going to say, "Uh-oh, which change do I take?" So actually, this is a good learning opportunity. I'm gonna later on. I'm gonna have you push it on purpose, and then I'm gonna show you my screen. I'm gonna show you the conflict that happens, and I'm gonna show you how to fix it. It's pretty easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, then go through. Then go to constants for me, and just go through each file one by one, and I'll let you know if it looks about right. Okay, got it. Next one. Yeah, that's fine. Could you scroll down on this file because I don't see all the changes. Keep going down, down, down. Oh, what? Okay, scroll up a little bit. Up a little further. Up a little. Okay, that looks good. Next file. Okay, yeah. Go ahead and put a little summary in the description field because it's required. It's the bigger is the smaller box up top.
Oh, the summary. Okay.
Yeah. Just describe what happened in this change so other people who see this commit understand it, and then go ahead and
Yes, yes, yes.
click commit.
So something say like added eBay mm, access token. Like
Generation implementation or something like that, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right, go ahead and click commit. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and publish the branch. Perfect. And then you're going to preview a pull request. Okay, and then you're going to create a pull request.
Okay, let me share my screen. What I see.
Yeah. Perfect. And so now you're on GitHub, you're going to create a pull request and you're going to say on the title, you're going to explain what happened. And in the description, now I'm already here, so you don't have to write a description, but generally people aren't going to be watching you how to code, right? So you're going to write a little description explaining in detail what these code changes do and how it's going to affect everything, right? You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
this time because I'm here. And then afterwards, there's our company's really specific. Normal companies won't require you to do this, but open up a new tab and search up Devmoji, DEVMOGI. So like it's like emoji but Devmoji. Okay, go ahead and just second link, please.
This or this? Oh, it's this.
Second link, yeah, with the emoji, the blinking face. Perfect. And scroll down. So we have all of these different emojis that you put in front of your pull request. So if I put a little bug in front, we know that hey, this this pull request is to fix a bug. If I see sparkles next to it, you see that it means that this emoji. It means that this pull request is for introducing a new feature. You can scroll down a little further. There's a whole bunch, right? Zap is for improving performance. Lipstick is maybe today is a little part of it is a little bit of lipstick later on for me because we're updating the UI and style field files. Oh, not really. That's the internal coding, but you kind of get the idea.
Yeah.
Uh, Lock is for fixing and updating privacy security issues, but um, later on, like whenever you have time, just you can kind of look through it. It's no big deal, but like um, just something that at least our company does
Yeah.
that
It
we
seems
implement.
interesting. Like
Yeah.
it seems interesting. Gives you kind of an overview of what happened. So
Yeah,
if you go
yeah, really
through
quickly, so I don't get really overwhelmed. Like if I know for a fact that I'm looking for a security concern, that I can look through my PRs with anything with a lock emoji in it, then I'll know
hmm
like, okay, these are all of our privacy issues that we've just fixed. But
yeah.
this is kind of like a heads up. Okay, all right, we can go back. All right, go ahead and scroll down, and you should see the create pull request. Go ahead and create the pull request. All right. So there are two things. So usually on a big company, because I didn't pay money for GitHub, so they don't do this. But if you pay money, there are two things that will usually happen. The first one is, do you see it, the green button that says merge pull request?
Yeah, this.
Yeah, don't click it yet. Don't click it yet. But usually speaking, it will not be green. And on the right hand side, do you see where it says reviewers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So usually it will take several reviews. So in our company, it takes two reviews. So I will get an email saying, "Hey, Gene wants to make these changes onto our current branch," and then I will go ahead and I will look through the changes that you want to make. So earlier on today, I made you scroll through each of your changes manually. At a big company, I would never jump on a conference call and be like, "Hey, can you look through all of these items before I commit it?" Right? It doesn't make sense. And
Mm-hmm.
what if I have like hundreds of commits? I'm not going to do hundreds of conference calls, right? Um, I'm just going to very simply create a pull request, and this will summarize all the changes I want to make, and then I will go ahead and either put a comment in and say, "Hey, I haven't approved it because I don't like this small thing. Fix it for me," and then I will give you an approval, right? Or if I like it, I'll give you a approval. So give me a minute here. Let me actually give you an example of what a approval will look like. Um, one moment here. Yes, so I just got a email saying that there's a pull request that's required. Actually, so I will actually show you my screen because later on you will also be reviewing other people's pull requests. But if I go ahead and I will, here's my oh, okay, entire screen, share. You guys can see my screen, right? Um,
Yeah, I can see.
So I will go ahead, and this is what your pull request looks like. I will go ahead and click on files change, and I'll be like, oh, okay, he wants to make this change, okay, all these changes. And then I will say, let's just say, for example, if I say like example problem, right? And then I'll start a review and I'll add a little problem here. And then I will say something like, hey, I added a little comment. I want you to fix this, for example, right? And on your end, go ahead and resolve the conversation. You can click this little button that says resolve conversation, which means like, okay, we fixed this problem, and then you will go ahead and re-request a new review, right? So say I go back and I say, oh, look, you fixed this issue. I'm happy with it now and it's resolved. Then I'm gonna go ahead and click approve. And so now you have a little green check mark here. Very cool, right? And
Yeah.
so at our company, we require two reviews. So once me and say another person review and we're like, okay, looks good, then one more thing is going to happen. Over here, we don't have a test class. So later on, I'll teach you how to do testing. But generally speaking, whenever we write code, we always create testing. And so there's unit testing, integration testing, smoke testing, end to end, stuff like that. But what will essentially happen is we have code that will auto test your code to make sure it's fine, right? And we also have a few other tests that we do. We want to make sure that inside your pom.xml, right? Do you remember what this is? The pom.xml, we have all these dependencies, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Sometimes some of these dependencies, they get really old, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they have lots of vulnerabilities, and we don't want vulnerabilities in our platform, right? And so if we have vulnerable dependencies, there is a program such as for us we have like Snake and White Source, right? That will tell us, hey, this one has known defects in it. We won't allow you to use this dependency. And we also have another one called White Source that scans your code, and if it finds any sort of common coding errors, like for example, one of the issues that a lot of people have, for example, is they like to put these strings directly in more than once. So if I use so say, for example, over here, if I go ahead and use XCC app instead of using this variable, then
Variable.
then also white source might might not approve, and will say, hey, merging is blocked until you fix this error. So once the pipeline with all the tests, all the vulnerability scans, all the coding scans passes, and you have 2 approvals, then this will turn green, right? And so once this turns green, Gene, if you want, you can do the honors. You could press the merge button, and we'll see on our end. So Gene, go ahead and press it, and we'll see this. It should turn either purple or black.
Confirm merge. Then
Yes.
okay.
Perfect. So now that we've merged it in, we can delete the branch because we no longer need the changes. And if we go back to, if I go back to over here on my main branch and I fetch your changes, stash changes, okay. All right, Gene, look at that. Beautiful. Your changes just came in, and we see that you've made some changes onto our repository. See that?
Yeah, I see.
Perfect. And later on, if I'm wondering, okay, these are very cool changes, but what do they do? What do I see? Con 6, right? So later on, I can go back to the board. I can find where con 6 is. I don't know where it is now, but there's a way to search it up.
It's the one
Oh,
that
right
it's
here.
in progress. Yeah, that's what we were
Yeah.
working on
So
last time. Yeah.
I can see like, hey, con 6 has been these changes have to do with con 6, and I'll be able to very easily cross reference and say, okay, this is the changes that went in. These people approved it, and this is what happened. So we can very, very clearly document exactly what's going on. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Perfect. Okay. Um, all right. So I guess I will show you guys what happens because remember how I told you that you also made changes to Card Cache client and I also made changes.
Yeah.
So now if I click the restore button, you're going to see that there are conflicts, right? Because Git freaks out. Git says, okay, you made some changes. I made some changes. Whose changes do we take, right? It doesn't know what to do. So I will show you what to do. Um, so over here, okay, let's go ahead and open this with a default program, which in this case is going to be IntelliJ. Okay, and we will see. Uh, okay, we will see over here that there are equal signs. These signs where it says updated upstream, and over here is the stashed changes, right? So basically, what is this trying to tell me? It's saying that all this stuff, all the way up to the equal sign, are my changes,
Yeah.
and above the equal sign to the this part are all of your changes. So what change do we want to keep? That's what he's trying to ask us. So I kind of like what you did here, where you kind of explain stuff. So actually, I'm going to cut and paste your changes over here. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
then, but all these stuff I still need. So then I'm just going to delete your changes here. And then at the very bottom, I'm going to delete here. And then all of a sudden, you can see for Card Cache client, it's valid now. So if I
Yeah.
go back to over here, you can see now it's a green check mark. We resolve the conflicts. Git sees it and says, oh, this is what you want to do. These are the changes you want to keep. Very cool. I'll keep that in mind. All right. Same thing. Over here, if I go to the default program and I say, okay, wow, there are a lot of changes, right? So these are your changes. And in my branch, because there's nothing in between the equal sign and this one, this doesn't even exist in my branch, right? So because we use these imports, we might want to actually keep your stuff. So and we can see over here, we actually don't use these 2 imports, so I'm actually going to delete this. Okay, over here, between the equal sign and over here, it doesn't exist on my branch, but over here, these 2 items exist on your branch, and obviously you use it. So we're going to go ahead and keep your changes and delete my changes, right? And
Yeah.
let's see here. Right over here, you have this between this sign, right, the crocodile, and equal sign. This giant method exists on your branch, but it doesn't exist on my branch. So we want to keep it. We don't want to just go ahead and all willy nilly delete it. So we will go ahead and keep that in. Perfect. So now we should have resolved all the conflicts. You will see on GitHub, on Git, another check mark. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a branch here, con6-continued, right? I'm going to create a branch, create branch. I'm going to bring my changes onto, I'm actually going to merge this in real quick first. Conflict resolutions. And then over here, I'm then going to go ahead and continue coding and do my work. And so over here, obviously, like we were talking about earlier, what we're going to do for this particular change is I'm going to go under clients. I'm going to create a new class called eBay client, right? Add that in. I'm going to call component. I'm going to declare this as a component because we want to auto wire this later, right? And
Yeah.
then, perfect. I'm going to cut this change. And I'm going to paste it all in here. And then it freaks out. Where's the eBay client ID and eBay secret, right?
Mhm.
All I got to do is you have it over here, right? So I'm going to cut it over here and paste it over here. And perfect. And oh, and one more thing, the REST template, right? We can't forget that. The REST template, we're going to move over to here. And get all stores and generate session. Uh-oh. Theoretically, that should have already been in our client section, right? Car clash client. Uh-oh. So, right. We made a mistake here, but that's okay. We will go ahead and move the... remember how previously... I don't know what happened to our changes. I think we messed up somewhere in our GitHub stuff, but that's no big deal. We are just moving these two methods over to our client
Oh, gosh.
class.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys remember that. And for the get all store rates here, it's very, we still use it. So we're going to go ahead and move that in here. And under here, we're going to auto wire the card cash client, right? And so for card cash client, we're going to dot get all store rates, and we're going to return it. And let's see here for the generate session here. Uh-oh. Does your thing not have a generate session? Here's a really cool thing that you can do. Remember how in CarCash service we used to have a method that uses generate session, but I don't
Hmm.
really know where it went. So what do we do? Oh, that's the issue. Dot get exchange percentage. So what I can do here is I can get compare with a branch, and I'm going to compare it with the main. Uh-oh. Get compare with branch origin main. Uh-oh. Get exchange percentage. Oh, you know what the mistake was? It should be generate card cash session. I did the yeah, exchange this one right here. So give me one moment here. Generate session is missing. So under the client, I have the generate session. Oh, and one more thing. If I open up here and I do open annotate with get blame, it shows who did what changes, right? So you can see that these are the changes that I made under 14JChan, and these are the changes that you made, Gene. So if there is, say, some code that you don't understand, if you annotate it with git blame, then you know who to ask, right? So you can
Yeah.
say, hey, who did this code? I want to ask them what their logic was behind it. Why did they did it that way? All that fun stuff. But cache client dot get dot generate session. Perfect. And last thing is generate session. Perfect. Okay, that looks good. So now we have everything inside the eBay client that we need. We're in next time session, we're gonna finish up this ticket, and we're going to actually finish coding this little area. And over here, we're going to go ahead and but today we move this client class over, and then I'm gonna say inside my PR today, I'm gonna say something like maybe as a summary, moved eBay client implementation to IMP to client class, right? I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Publish the branch. I'm going to preview pull request. Looks good. I'm going to annotate it with a hammer emoji. I'm going to say something like moved eBay token generation method to its own client class, refactored and fixed up card cache client class, right? I'm going to create a pull request. All right. And then it should have sent an email to you, Gene, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and on Jitsi, I'm going to go ahead and send you the pull request. Could you go ahead and look through it real quick and approve it?
Okay. Let me open my.
Okay. Oh, that's why. There are conflicts within our branch again. So one moment. Let me go ahead and merge in repository. Let me go ahead and branch, merge into current branch. Remember, I totally forgot to do this. There are two conflicts right now, right? So let me merge those in, and let me open these up inside the default program here. Let's take a look at what conflicts are here. Get all store rates. Right, so this one actually, do you see how this code kind of duplicated over here and here? I put it in different
Yeah.
areas, and that's why it freaks out. So it's very easy. I'll just delete one of them, and I'll keep the other one, right? So no problem there. And let me take a look at the other
I
problem.
think I think you deleted both.
Did I?
Yeah, because there's one which was. Then
Ah,
you
you're
removed
right.
it.
Good catch, good catch. Thanks for letting me know. Perfect. And the other issue, open in default program here. Got it. These we don't need because remember we moved these over to the eBay implementation, right?
Yeah.
And oh wow, quite a few more changes here. Public generate session, right? So we deleted this eBay access token thing, and this generate session I think we already moved over, right? So we want to keep this item. Perfect. And so, and last thing here, we have a few imports that we need to fix up. Looks good. Looks good. Okay, and so we fixed up these two. Continue merge. Looks good. I'll push the. So push the origin means that yes, on locally on my device the changes are there, but push it so that GitHub knows the changes have been made. So go ahead and go ahead, Gene, and refresh on your end. And if you think that, and feel free to put comments in. The whole point, don't be afraid to like, oh, you're the instructor, so his code must be perfect. No, 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 no. I will make stupid mistakes sometimes as well. I'm human, right? So
Yeah.
if you see something stupid, please put a comment in. Don't approve it blindly, because once you approve it, it means that you also agree that this code looks good, right? And so
Mhm.
once you feel satisfied that, yeah, this code does look correct, go ahead and approve it, and I will go ahead and merge it in.
So when you'll be merging it to main, and if I want to pull it, I will pull from main, and then can I merge it to my feature 6 branch?
Yes. So let's just say if you open up a new branch, right? No, your feature six branch is now closed. It doesn't matter anymore because your
Oh,
feature
okay.
six branch, all of your changes were already brought to main. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All of your changes are now brought to the main branch, so it lives forever in our repo. Um,
Okay.
but what I did was I created a new branch, right, that has all of my changes that I just made, right? So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I think you should. I think I just merge because we're good to go. Nothing. We
Okay.
have gone through the code like together,
Perfect.
so
So yeah, go ahead and approve the pull request real quick for me. Um, then
done.
once you're done, okay.
Yeah.
And so once you are done, I'm gonna assume that you press. Oh, okay, then you just press. Don't generally don't merge other people's pull request. Just
Okay.
approve it, and when they're also happy, then they merge it in.
Mhm.
But yeah, so
Okay.
now that those changes have been merged in, you can see my main branch. If I go ahead and I fetch the origin, I can see that there's three new changes. So I'll pull it in, and you can see that all of these small changes that we just made now live on the main branch.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool, cool, cool. All right, I think we're gonna end it here for today.
Okay.
It was very fun having you guys, and
Mhm.
hopefully that kind of gives you a somewhat good overview of how to use Git. Obviously, please, please, please watch a video on the details of Git, how to push, pull, origin, main, all that fun stuff, right? But that will kind of give you an inspiration and an idea of how it sort of should work on a functional kind of like Git repository.
Okay. Yeah. It was an interesting
Cool.
session. So thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.